Focus. Come on. Get in there. Morbius, the living vampire. Aloha, Wahinis. Don't send me any money on Patreon. I would just spend it on Southeast Asian transsexual prostitutes. But send me your art that I can use for the channel. I'd love to see it. I really do get a kick out of it. I was reading a Marvel #1 called Morbius, a vampire book, and it was pretty good. If you like the whole vampire mythology thing, then check it out. But will it stay good? I mean, free of SJW stuff? No way in hell. It almost can't. Marvel has sort of written themselves into a corner with the whole SJW thing. Think about it. What do you think the Twitter reaction would be if the comics actually reflected reality? Now, I will say it does a lot of good things. It does a lot of these things well. It sets up what feels like classic comics from the 80s and 90s. It feels old-fashioned, and I know old-fashioned is not usually a compliment, but talking about modern comics, it definitely is a compliment. And, you know, it reminds me, I remember when Comicsgate was kind of getting started, and the detractors of Comicsgate were saying, oh, you guys just want to go back to the 90s. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Pick up books before 1990, 90s, 70s, 80s. Yeah, they were a lot better. I mean, the only thing better about modern comics post-90s is the printing process, the colors, the art. Yeah, that's admittedly better. Back in the day, back in the 80s, it was, I think they had like a 3 or 4 color process, and they had to reuse a lot of colors and get really creative. And no, the colors were not great compared to nowadays. I mean, look at this. It's phenomenal. But the stories were great. And the art was great, too. I mean, the pencils and the inks were great. Just not the colors so much. Anyway, yeah, so what would happen if the comics were actually realistic? The teenagers who don't buy comics in the first place would threaten to boycott it. OMG, I'm literally shaking right now. Or what would happen if Marvel Comics just dropped the whole blonde man bad routine? What if the bad guys were spread out among all the different groups, including the super protected ones? Because while there are purse puppies, believe it or not, there are super purse puppies. I don't know what that would be in terms of a dog. If you're just a plain Jane Mexican, Arab, or Asian, you're at the bottom of the purse puppy hierarchy. Anything associated with Islam is above that, and the top of the food chain are the groups that can't even be named. Imagine the Twitter reaction if the bad guys were a Central American gang. Mike Miller's comic, I forget the name of it, Lone Star, was refused by Kickstarter because the protagonist was fighting a Latino gang, and the lesbian, communist Chinese woman said that gang members are a protected class. Yes, you heard me correctly. Gang members. The people from south of the border who extinguish life and snuggle women, you got to be careful with the YouTube algorithm. But since the goal of the commies is to destroy the West, they won't allow anyone to speak the truth about these types of gangs. And if I am too specific, YouTube will just pull a video. You know, before I started making videos, I heard people make videos. I hate calling them creators because it's so friggin' pretentious, especially when you're talking about someone like me who's got a, $200 cell phone and a $40 Kindle. Is that they always said, oh, YouTube is burying me in the algorithm. YouTube is hiding me. I'm not getting subs. And I thought, well, BS. Just make better videos. Just, whatever. But it's absolutely not BS. And the way I can prove it is I'm on BitChute and I'm on YouTube, right? 300 subs on YouTube and like 90 subs on BitChute. I joined BitChute much, much later than I did on YouTube. BitChute has like 1% of the audience that YouTube has. I'm growing faster on BitChute than I am on YouTube. That's not possible. That's mathematically impossible. The audience on YouTube is literally two orders of magnitude larger. I should be growing 2 orders of magnitude faster on YouTube. I'm not. I get like, I don't know, 1 sub every few days, 1 sub a week maybe. But BitChute is growing, I don't know, almost an order of magnitude faster. So yeah, there's something going on here. And like I said, on December 10th, a lot of us are going to be just moving over to DLive and BitChute, which is cool because DLive is the live streaming platform, and that is a lot of fun. I would like to live stream on YouTube, but I got to do it from a laptop, and it's like, I need a new computer. Anyway, When Kickstarter refused Mike's book, it's actually a much deeper issue than it appears. Kickstarter is a huge platform. Think about what they have done. Miller's comic is about and I know a lot of you don't like Mike Miller, fair enough. Sorry, Mike. I like him, but I mean, I understand he's kind of a troll. But I mean, this is a bigger issue than just Mike Miller, who's, Hobbit-sized. Mike Miller's comic is about a superhero fighting the inner city gangs. Miller didn't make up the scenario. It actually exists. Those inner city gangs really are destroying the inner cities, killing women and children. But because they have brown skin and don't speak English, the truth must not be told about them. Mike Miller is fighting the culture war in a way that Cyberfrog never could. That's not a dig against Ethan. Cyberfrog looks very good. This all ties into politics, the rapidly changing demographics of America, crime, and who is behind it. The people on the left are pushing to destroy the nation, and they're using every tool available. Anyway, this vampire story, Morbius? Yeah, I think so. It's good. It would have been better without the misandry, blonde man bad trope. Just for once, I'd like to see a comic that was actually realistic. The bad people in America don't, how shall I say this, have blonde hair. Read in between the lines here, you know what I mean. But Mark weighed my words, and I am 100% certain it will devolve into pure SJW soy in future issues. The writers can't help themselves, and they don't want to. They know what they're doing. That's why comics don't make it too long before they get canceled. There seems to be an awful lot of number one issues. At first glance, you might assume that the comic industry is growing rapidly, until you realize that there are a ton of final issues. But never fear, a comic gets canceled for low sales, then they wait a few months and relaunch it, sometimes with the same freaking crew. Does that sound insane to you? So I can't recommend what looks like a fun vampire book, because in the very first issue they introduce SJW elements. Your lust and greed lead you to abandon virtue. Okay, that's a little bit of a warning sign, and I know it sounds weird to people who don't read comics often enough. It says, you do not deserve the resources you have stolen. If one is no longer fulfilling their functions as a man, I will gladly take them off your hands and use them for worthier pursuits. I know it sounds like tinfoil hat stuff to say you got to read in between the lines here, but there's a lot going on in between the lines with what they really mean. But I think some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if they could just get rid of that part, you've got what looks like a fun comic, well drawn, good inks, good colors, good art, everything. Composition's good. Like I said, it feels old fashioned. This kind of thing, that feels. You're not in Japan. Don't try to be Japanese. You're appropriating some kind of horse shit. That's the end of it. Okay, let's take a look at Punisher. Okay, this is a Punisher Soviet. I saw that ya boy reviewed it, and I'm sure he liked it because, the whole John Wick type of thing. But he is wrong, and as someone in his comments pointed out, fighting Russians is kind of weird when most organized crime is, like I said, it's from south of the border. Russian gangs are kind of a few decades old, but they are safe because of the color of their skin. It just feels like they're bending over backwards to avoid the elephant in the room. Russian gangs are not a problem. How many stories can you make where the bad guys all have white skin? If you only read a few comics a month, you don't notice it. But when you start noticing it, you cannot unnotice it. And it will ruin this type of comic for you forever. Once you see blonde or red hair in a story, once it's introduced, you know who the bad guys are every single time. There are no surprises. There can't be any surprises. Why not just once in your... Why am I making hand gestures? What a freaking nut job. Why not just once in... I just continue making hand gestures. Why not just once in your life make the bad guys brown? Just start showing the world as it is. Just start telling the truth. We can handle it if you make the bad guys our specific ethnicity, because we know the way of the world. It's okay as long as everyone is shown to be the bad guy once in a while. You just can't make it the same people every time. It's just... It removes the element of surprise, and that's a critical part of storytelling, is give people a little bit of surprise. Not every time you... If you read 2 comics a month, then you know what I'm talking about. You know as soon as you see blonde hair, red hair, that's a bad guy. Like, you could bet money on it because it's 100%. It's not even, I'm never wrong. It's just, you're never going to see a blonde hair. If you have blonde hair, red hair guy, and then some kind of African guy, every time the African guy is not going to be the bad guy. Anyway, I was reading my comments. I read them all, even when they are brutal. I think I said and I don't take any down, but YouTube hides some if you use bad words. Even if you use the word sex in a comment, they'll hide it. It's bizarre. I think I said in a video I didn't cover something because Zach already did it, and someone said, not everyone likes Zach. This shocked me. Not liking Zach is like not liking Cecil, cocaine, whiskey, or hookers. It's just inconceivable. But I guess different strokes for different folks. I know most of you are old enough to remember the pre-cultural Marxist days. Movies used to show bad guys of different ethnicities. Nowadays, you have the movies and comics showing Irish guys selling dope. Bruh, that just ain't how it works. But whatever, it's a world of jokers. So we get a fun vampire book that will go full SJW in issue 2, and a Punisher that is decades out of date because Orange Man bad, and we're all Russian bots. So what doesn't suck camel toe? The Mandalorian doesn't suck. I saw the 2 issues out on Disney+, both solid episodes. They don't feel like Star Wars, they feel like Disney Star Wars, but it's the best version of Disney Star Wars that you could possibly hope for. The music is all wrong for Star Wars, though. Everything and the setting, everything is too clean and too bright. When you're in the desert, everything gets covered in a fine dust. The effect is that it turns down the colors on everything. Blowing sand slowly polishes all surfaces. It gives everything a certain patina. What you need to do is take everyone's costumes and have people go jogging in the desert. The salt from their sweat mixes with the silt to give the fabric a certain look. It's authenticity that makes everything better. And I know this because I've spent a lot of time sweating in the desert and getting my clothes. They get a certain look to it. You get sweat marks, and the clothes gets wet, and it just gets a certain grime to it where the colors are muted. Everything's muted. Anyway, the characters in what's it called? Mandalorian are kind of a little too cutesy. If you watch A New Hope very carefully and Return of the Jedi, the Jabba Palace scene, that was authentic Star Wars. Puppets, not CGI. Real dirt, not pixels. You could almost smell that dirt. The best part of The Mandalorian was The Mandalorian, a stoic man of few words. Clint Eastwood. It felt like a spaghetti western meets the first book in Stephen King's The Dark Tower. I think King based that character on a mix of Clint Eastwood and adventurers, Conan types who established kingdoms as they grew and the characters evolved. He is definitely not a Mary Sue. There are stakes at play. He isn't one-dimensional, not a purse puppy like if a female played the role. If a woman played the role, it would bomb right off the bat. Because we know how SJW media treats women. You get 130-pound, 5'4" Scarlett Johansson beating up 200-pound men. It's nonsense. But nothing is easy for the Mandalorian. He gets tossed around. He barely survives some situations. He's a total badass, but he is going up against tough odds. It feels like a very good old-fashioned show like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom. Indy wasn't a Superman. He was just a tough guy who went up against tough odds. Nothing was easy for him. Of course he was going to win. It would be a short story if he didn't win. But he wins in a way that doesn't take you out of the story. I haven't watched anything else on Disney, and I didn't pay for it. Someone sent me their email and password, so thank you for that. Is it worth $7? Not for me. But I don't watch TV. I stick to films. I would wait until the season is over. Maybe you can pay the $7 and just watch the whole season, binge it. That would definitely be worth $7. Is the Punisher or Morbius? Morbius? I don't know what it's called. Worth $4? Absolutely not. Not even close. The Punisher isn't worth anything to me. Morbius would be worth, say, $2.50, assuming the stuff with the SJW nonsense about white men bad stops. White people are awesome. # I love the people of the light. Guys, follow me on Twitter because I have only been on a month and I have had a 24-hour suspension and then a week suspension. So the next time they're going to kick the account. So follow me quick. Check the links in the description if you want to support the channel. Or if not, no worries. Send me your art. Aloha and mahalo.